Another week has passed in Moscow, Idaho, and still no arrest in the murders of 4 college students, Maddie, Kayla, Xana, and Ethan. And as the investigation continues, Kaylee's father, Stephen Goncalves, is growing impatient and is speaking out about what happened to his daughter, who he thinks was targeted, and is now questioning why certain people were quickly cleared by investigators. And it's reported he's now hiring his own private investigator. Tonight, what does this rift between Kaylee's family and police mean, and how will it impact the investigation? Tonight, we take a closer look.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And here we are, the start of another week. It was November 13th when those 4 students in Idaho were murdered, and as we sit here tonight, still no arrests. No suspect has been named. No person of interest has been named. We've had a bunch of people cleared, but no one's been named. And a lot of people are wondering what is going on. How difficult of a case is this? Could this case go cold? Could we end up with another situation like Delphi, where it's years before these families get some sense of an answer and hope for some justice in the case, holding someone responsible for this absolutely horrific set of murders? This is a mass murderer we're looking for. A mass murderer. Extremely dangerous, obviously. Now, Kaylee's father, Stephen, wants justice, and he's been the most outspoken. And he's also done a lot of work with his family in trying to help investigators as much as possible, putting together timelines, breaking into the code for his daughter's cell phone, and providing as much information as possible. And you can imagine the thoughts of a father. You know, you raise your little girl, and then comes the moment where she has to leave home to go away to college. And yeah, it's tough, but you know that moment has to happen, and you want to support the children, you want to support your daughter and do everything you can, and that's what he did. I mean, the dad did, and mom and the whole family, I mean, they did everything right to get her to that next step. And that next step, those 4 years are supposed to be amazing. They should be amazing. You get to grow up, you get to learn, you make incredible friendships, and you get ready. It's that step between, you know, being a child and then becoming a fully functional, independent adult. But dad can't be there to protect you. And that's got to be part of the frustration that he is feeling tonight and every night. And he wants justice. And he's at a place right now where he feels like, I may not get it. That I don't necessarily believe in these investigators and trust what is happening. Now, we've heard that several people have been cleared by the Moscow police. So we've heard, because a case like this, obviously there's going to be a lot of rumors. Oh, we should look at this one, look at that one. The internet is notorious for this, right? That people are convicted before, you know, there's real evidence. So they have publicly cleared many, many people. And the question is, have they cleared anyone who maybe shouldn't be cleared? I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence. They have. When they clear someone, I tend to believe police, unless they're doing it for some investigative purpose, right? Now, we heard over the weekend for the first time from the 2 surviving roommates. And I can't imagine what's going on in their minds. I mean, the loss of 4 friends, then being in the house where this quadruple murder took place, and somehow, some way you were able to survive it all. You know, that's a difficult spot. Obviously, you're thankful that you're alive, but by the same token, that's survivor's guilt that you're feeling. And then, you know, everyone was waiting to hear from you. Well, they spoke over the weekend, and it was, they wrote a letter, that was read by a pastor. And I want to play part of that for you now so you can hear the words of two of the roommates, the two who survived.
To my 4 best friends who deserve to live a long, happy life, my life was greatly impacted to have known these 4 beautiful people. My people who changed my life in so many ways and made me so happy. I know it will be hard to not have the 4 of them in our lives, but I know Xana, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee would want us to live life and be happy, and they would want us to celebrate their lives. Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were truly all one of a kind. They all lit up any room they walked into and were gifts to this world. I wish every day that I could give them all one last hug and say how much I loved them.
And I think about the bond that they must have had, you know, the friendships that are made in college. I mean, for a lot of people, these become lasting, lifetime relationships, and you become very close because you're living together, you're experiencing things together, you're growing up together in those final few years. And for all of that to just be taken away by this killer is difficult, but we've got a few things to talk about tonight and a lot of focus tonight. We want to talk about where we are in this investigation and this relationship between a family, you know, Kaylee's father and their family, and the level of frustration they're feeling in a murder and series of murders that took place in November 13th, and here we are in December, and it doesn't seem from the outside looking in that we're any closer to solving this, having someone arrested, someone held responsible. So let's bring in our guests to try to get some more information here tonight. Joining us tonight in New York City, senior reporter for the U.S. Sun, Luke Kenton, is back with us. In Woodlands, Texas, former senior special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration and founder and CEO of the Global Security Group, David Katz, is with us. And also in New York, private investigator, founder of Black Ops Private Investigators, former New York City policeman, Manuel Gomez, back with us. Great to see everyone tonight. Luke, let me begin with you and the fact that we finally heard from the surviving roommates. This is emotional, and we've seen these vigils for the communities, the schools, the friends, the families. This has been a very emotional few days here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, particularly with the 2 surviving roommates, what they must have been through over the last 3 or 4 weeks is unimaginable. Waking up to something like that happening in your home, to some of your best friends, you know, you can't imagine what they must be dealing with. But it's also a crime, as we know, and as we've seen from the attention it's got over the last few weeks, that's touched and affected a lot of people, and a lot of people now want answers because of that. Absolutely.
What are you hearing? What are you finding out and seeing coming from Kaylee's father, Steve Goncalves, in this level of frustration and this seeming rift with local law enforcement out in Idaho?
Yeah, I mean, his frustration seems to be palpable at this stage, and kind of understandable at the same time. You know, we've seen police release a series of seemingly contradictory statements at times. You've got different statements from police and prosecutors, and at the same time, as far as evidence and concrete leads are concerned, there hasn't been a great deal of information. Timelines are still quite murky. So, you know, I think Kaylee's dad's frustration and lack of faith, I guess, at this stage is kind of understandable, which is why, you know, he's gone to the lengths to hire a private investigator firm this early on, which I don't think is fairly typical in cases such as this. But, you know, it seems to be a department that's not particularly well equipped to deal with a crime of this magnitude or a crime that has this much attention on it. They haven't recorded a murder in Moscow, Idaho since 2015, and it sems like police are learning in real time.
Manuel, you're a private investigator. You also were in NYPD. I want to put up on the screen what Steve Goncalves said to the New York Post. The grieving father of murdered University of Idaho student Kaylee Goncalves is working with his own private investigators because he fears cops in the major case are too, quote, inexperienced. As well as his own fears, Goncalves said he started working with private investigators because there were enough insiders telling us we should be concerned about the lack of any clear leads in the November 13th murders of his 21-year-old daughter and her 3 friends. Manuel, your thoughts, your reaction to the fact that the family has already gone down that route and doesn't have confidence. How is that relationship now once the family hires a private investigator? How do private investigators work a case that are actively being worked by law enforcement?
Well, I have to say, first of all, I agree 100% with the father hiring a private investigator. For the fact is that the police there have been dropping the ball throughout this case. From what I've read, this is not, in my professional opinion, and I've done numerous murders cases, one person that did this murder. And the reason why I say that is because these people were not gagged, they were not tied up, they were stabbed numerous times. Now, Kaylee and Madison were in the same room, and according to the mother, in the same bed, sleeping side by side. So the fact that Kaylee was stabbed numerous times, Madison would have woke up. So that tells me that there was someone holding Kaylee while she was being stabbed, and someone was straining her, because the body kicking those numerous times while they're stabbing, the other person would have woke up and screamed. So that's the first thing. So that's why I agree, one, on aspect that they hired a private investigator. Second, that the cops said that there was no threat to the community. Like you said before, this is a serial killer. He killed 4 people. They killed 4 people. That's my professional opinion. And second, that they were both sorority and fraternity members. Now, the fraternities and sororities, they're all prime suspects. Why hasn't their DNAs been checked? I know for a fact, looking at Ethan, the size of him, there is no way you're not gonna tell me that that boy did not put up a struggle and scratch the perpetrator, or Kaylee didn't scratch the perpetrator, or Madison, okay? There is no way that none of these kids scratched that perpetrator. I can almost guarantee that it has to be DNA evidence. And this is why I agree 100% that this father hired a private investigator, because like the other investigator said, they haven't had a murder there since 2015, and they're playing hurry up and catch up to learn how to do this.
David Katz, I want to put up on the screen the response from the Moscow Police Department in part of their update today. With the active criminal investigation, law enforcement has not released additional facts to the family or the public. We recognize the frustration this causes and that speculation proliferates in the absence of facts. However, we firmly believe speculation and unvetted information is a disservice to the victims, their families, and our community. The Moscow Police Department is committed to providing information whenever possible, but not at the expense of compromising the investigation and prosecution. David, what's your assessment so far? Here we are. Again, we go back to November 13th, a quadruple murder. And we don't have a publicly named person of interest or suspect in the case. And now we've got some friction with the family.
Well, frustration is understandable, of course. I don't blame the police department for withholding certain information. They can't do that without jeopardizing, in many cases, the investigation. I will note this. Earlier today, I was reading a few articles and conversations that the father had with various members of the press. And he mentioned that one investigator on the team was 26 years old. And my first thought was, I know guys who spent 26 years in homicide. So there's a level of experience. If the Moscow Police Department hasn't had a number of homicide investigations, if the state police in Idaho have not had a number of investigations, the FBI forensic murder is not not a federal offense except in very narrow areas. So we don't have trained homicide investigators. So from that standpoint, they may have good forensics, and I don't have any FBI forensics is great. But I think they would profit by having someone who spent a lot of time working a lot of homicide cases, active investigations, and they really need to get their press department. They probably don't have a press department, but their media communication is not that great.
Now, Steve Goncalves told Fox News that he believes the killer's target was Kaylee or Maddie based on their location on the 3rd floor in the house.
There's a couple things that tell me with common sense but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me, he doesn't have to go upstairs. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to.
Luke Kenton, the layout of this house is, I think, a very significant part of this whole case, and we've seen pictures of it. 3 different levels. The entry point is going to be significant here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I agree with Kaylee's dad as well. It seems like, from what he said over the weekend as well, another comment that he made, I think, which was quite telling, was that he said the victim's wounds didn't match one another. He was pretty vague on the details, but something that would suggest to me is, you know, if one of the victims has more severe wounds than the other, we know this is a stabbing, which is a very personal form of murder, and a vicious one too. If one of those 2 girls who were slept next to each other had more severe wounds than the other, then it would point to the fact that this was targeted towards one of the girls, and then perhaps the other one was, you know, a innocent bystander, or, you know, in the wrong place at the wrong time, should we say.
David Katz, I look at the house, and there's 3 levels. The 2 survivors who we heard the pastor reading their words, they're down on that bottom level where there is a door. On the 2nd level, there's a sliding glass door that goes to that 2nd level. Kaylee and Maddie are up on the 3rd floor. You've got to go up the stairs to get there. So if investigators continue to tell us this was a targeted attack, do you agree that the target would have been the 3rd floor if, in fact, this was a targeted attack? If the entry point is that sliding glass door?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is all speculation. Everything we're talking about today is highly speculative. So because we don't have a lot of facts to work with, but I will posit this. Someone made a statement early on. They don't know whether the girls were targeted or the house was targeted. Not that I know what how you target a house. I'm not really sure about that. But it could mean that the lights were on upstairs and none were downstairs. So perpetrator comes in and goes to where they know, where they believe people are. My gut feeling is that this was a targeted attack against someone, one or more of them, personally. The number and ferocity of wound attacks, that may or may not be the case. Depends on where they are and what those wounds really were like. It could just be, I don't mean to be overly graphic, but if one person is fatally stabbed with the first blow and the other person is resisting, you're going to have more wounds. So, you know, it's hard to say. I would say that if there were other types of wounds, like mutilation types wounds, then I would say that yes, that probably is a good indicia that it was personal, targeted to one particular individual.
All right, guests staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the people who have been cleared already by law enforcement, because Kaylee's father thinks maybe some were cleared a little too quickly. Also, coming up next hour. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a 10-year-old boy accused of murdering his mother, and it looks like it may have been premeditated. Tonight, we examine the motive and what our system of justice should do with a 10-year-old accused murderer.
Anytime there's violence that happens in Milwaukee, whether it's committed by somebody who's 10 years old or much older than that, that gives me pause.
In 2018, a killer walked the streets of Laredo, Texas.
He took advantage of the vulnerability of this community. I mean, there was a lot of fear.
Former Border Patrol agent Juan David Ortiz, accused of killing 4 women.
Ortiz carried out these murders in a cold and callous way.
Now he faces a jury and life in prison if convicted.
The Border Patrol serial killer trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 9/8 Central on Court TV.
Passports.com.
We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime. The 2 surviving roommates, a male seen at the grub truck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie, a private party who provided rides home to Kaylee, and Madison in the early morning hour of November 13th.
So there's the captain talking about some of the people who've been cleared in the Idaho quadruple murder. Again, I want to put this up. This is from the Moscow police homicide update. Again, people not believed to be involved. 2 surviving roommates, the male in the grub truck surveillance video we were all talking about in the beginning, the driver who took Kaylee and Madison home from the grub truck, the male Kaylee and Madison called numerous times during the early morning hours of November 13th. Any individual at the residence when 911 was called, and the individual on the lease who moved out of the residence before the school year started. That was this so-called 6th roommate who was not there. Now, going back to that New York Post interview with Kaylee's dad, he said that he admitted that he also fears that a hoodie-wearing man spotted lingering near his daughter and her best friend, Madison Mogen, also 21, was ruled out too quickly for killing the pair and their 2 friends. Some people came to us and said that he's out of the country. He didn't take a DNA test, is what Kaylee's father told the New York Post. Luke Kenton, senior reporter at the U.S. Sun, still with us. David Katz, former special agent at the DEA, and Manuel Gomez, private investigator, still with us. Luke, so the father is saying, hey, look, take a look at this video again, folks. This guy, why was he cleared? It seems like he was cleared too quickly. What do we know about the guy with the hood? Do we know much more about him?
I mean, as is with so much of this case, there's a lot of speculation about who that individual is. There's been a lot of chatter online that he was a member of a frat party on campus who was kicked out recently. It remains to be seen if that's true. But, you know, it does seem awfully quick for police to rule out any suspect, considering he's among the very last people to have seen the 2 girls alive. We don't know what his alibi was. The family don't seem to know that either. So I think sharing some of that information with them might help to ease some of the tensions. But, you know, it's incredibly troubling if he has indeed left the country, as that comment would suggest, and not supplying DNA in a case that seems to have so few leads at the moment. It's quite alarming to me.
And we're kind of still in the semester. I don't know if he's dropped out, if he's not going to school anymore. But again, I don't even know if he left the country. This is what the dad is saying. Manuel, so if a private investigator's on the case and dad's like, hey, this guy was cleared, but why was he cleared? Is that something that you think the private investigator would start tracking down and trying to find out more about this individual if he's been cleared?
Absolutely. The fact that he left the country indicates that there is some possibility of some type of criminality. Now, again, that's speculation, but the fact that he left the country right after being talked to by the police puts him as a suspect. As a private investigator, and I hope the private investigators that the father hired are listening now, I would go to his house and collect hairbrush, dirty clothes, anything where there's DNA would be in the house, razors, toothbrush, all these DNAs would be still at the residence he has. At the residence, if it shows that everything has been taken out, then I would go back to the police and report it that clearly this guy should be considered as a suspect, and the family should consider tracking him down to whatever country he went to. The problem is that now that he left America, extradition becomes harder, and most cops won't go out there, but guys like me will. So I hope his guys do.
Yeah, David Katz, let me ask you this, because this is something a lot of people are wondering about too. Is there a time where you are going to publicly clear someone even though you haven't really cleared someone?
Well, I mean, there could be some tactical investigative reason why they're just saying the person is not, maybe the guy did flee and they want to keep the person at ease. I don't know why we accept the fact that this person is overseas. The father may have heard it from somebody. It may be true, may not be true. As for clearing somebody, you have to look at how let me give you an example. Let's say you take this fellow that is in the hood, and someone says, yeah, well, he actually worked at the hospital, the 12 to 8 shift. He works at the front desk. And after that, where he's seen there, he reported to work, and we have him sitting at his desk for 8 hours straight during the time the murder was committed on tape. then if they would just make that public, we'd say, okay, now I understand why they cleared it. But now they just say they cleared it, and someone says he went overseas, he dropped out of school. We have no idea. And again, once you have these facts that are unverifiable thrown into the case, how can anyone really make a solid judgment?
Yeah, and Luke, you know, as we studied that video that night, and he obviously was the first person everyone was like noticing, because you see him in the hood, he's behind him. When Maddie and Kaylee moved to the other side of the food truck, he moves to the other side of the food truck. When Maddie and Kaylee's ride shows up, they leave, and then as soon as he notices that they left, he leaves. You know, that was the reason everyone was looking at him, but then he was very quickly cleared after all that, because here's the other part of the video that we're watching. It looks like there's a little potential back and forth as well, but there's a lot of people here. I've got to suspect that all of them have something to say about what was actually happening at the food truck that night.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's quite an interesting moment in that video as well, where the individual in question appears to look up towards a camera, perhaps by the food truck, and then puts his hood up, which certainly seems to be slightly suspicious activity at first glance, if that's indeed what he is doing. But yeah, there seems to be some sort of exchange between the individual and the girls and another individual standing by. I think it's crucial to determine what was said. Some witnesses have told, I believe it was Newsweek, that he was concerned about them getting home, and appeared to be a super nice guy. I think that was the owner of the food truck that said that. But again, you know, we don't know. And like I said previously, I just think it's quite strange at this stage, unless they have concrete evidence, i.e. DNA, to disprove that this individual was linked, to rule him out so publicly and so quickly. I think that's something that they possibly may revisit further down the line. Yeah,
I mean, it really surprised me. David, I'll go back to you one more time. When there's a very public case like this, you don't want people to be, I guess, publicly a public target if everyone's talking about them. So if you can clear them, I can understand why you would want to clear them, like the roommates, like other folks who have some connection to what everyone is talking about. So they are safe as well, right? Because you don't want someone who the public is saying, hey, they're a potential murderer. You don't want them to get hurt if they're, you know, if they become sort of the target of public chatter.
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of people online, if you read some of the stuff, they're putting this guy in the electric chair already. There's a guy in a hood who paid attention to the girls, who, if you read some stuff into it, maybe he was camera conscious, maybe he left when they left. There could be a number of reasons that you would put him in the suspect pile. And then if you just ran it down, you don't need DNA. If, for example, he's talking to a girl. Let's say that girl says, "We went home together, and we sat the whole night in my house with 6 other people." And you talk to those 6 other people, and they say, "This person did not leave the room." I don't need to take his DNA, because I know I have multiple witnesses. I have camera. I have whatever the other physical evidence may be that may exclude that person. I just wish they would make it public so we could talk about something that might be, you know, actually, you know, something that still is controversy.
Absolutely. All right, we've got much more to talk about in this case. We'll continue our coverage all week long here.